Welcome to the Heritage Show, where we delved into stories of healing, empowerment, and resilience from women around the globe. In today's episode, I had the profound honor of sitting down face-to-face with someone who has been a beacon of inspiration in my own freediving journey, Jessea Lu. Jessea is a world-class freediving athlete, researcher, and instructor trainer. She has set 37 national records and holds a world record. She also has a static apnea with a breath hold of over 8 minutes. In our conversation, Jessea shares her near-death experience during a world record attempt, a pivotal moment that led to profound self-discovery and healing. We explore topics such as finding the courage to change, the mental and physical benefits of freediving, her motivation for starting the sport, and how she balanced work, life, and research to maintain well-being. This episode is a deep dive into transformative power of freediving and the resilience of the human spirit. So let's take a deep breath and let's dive in. Welcome, Jessea, to the podcast, The Heritage Show. Thank you so much for being here.
Helly, it's great. Thank you very much for having me.
I've been so much looking forward to this time sitting down and having this conversation with you, because not only you are world-class freediving athletes, you are PhD in pharmacology, doing the very impactful research on oncology, I believe. Also, personally, you had such a big impact on me when I started freediving. You are the first freediver that I got to know and really inspired me to continue pursue this hobby. And today I'm so excited to bring your stories to our audience and share your transformation, your story with Ocean, and so much more.
Yeah, freediving has been a wonderful journey for me as well. And it's always great to meet another fellow diver.
I'm wondering, as you have so many roles and so many talents, and what is your mission? What is the impact that you're making to this world that ultimately inspires you and continue pushing forward?
I would say I'm always curious. I like exploration. I'm naturally adventurous. And what excites me is finding something new, learning new skills. Going to school, I spent 20 years in school. That was long enough. Same as, what I do for work, research. So scientific research, like bring the torch a little bit further at the border of the knowledge, the collective human knowledge. It's very, very, very exciting for me to control just a little bit beyond into the unknown zone. And that's also the reason why I really like freediving as a sport. Since it's a young sport, there weren't textbooks about how to become a good diver. We have some certification courses, which is great to get somebody started, right, to get certified. But after that, then you're on your own to understand your body, understand your mind, right? You piece these together to see how to improve. And I did that using freediving as a mini experiment. I can try different things on myself, right? And then I enjoy that process.
I heard a key word that you mentioned about being curious, and I wonder, how did you start freediving? Was also the same curious lead you to that sport?
The first time I started freediving, I was trained on my own because I was already scuba diving certified. And I think I only took the master scuba diver course, become a semi-professional, and I was supposed to be assisting other instructors with their diving classes. And there was sometimes you need to do a duck dive, go underwater, pick up weights or something that somebody drops right at the bottom of the lagoon. I was on the surface, I had my wetsuit on. I didn't have my weight belt. And I was really, really struggling. I wanted to go pick it up, but I couldn't get down. I couldn't just leave the surface. And I felt quite embarrassed as a master scuba diver. And that was what piqued my interest, of course. But then there was another time when I was on a scuba diving trip underwater with this big air tank behind me.
Yeah.
I saw local freedivers, the Hawaiians, just enjoying in the water, freediving, spearfishing right next to us. I spent the whole time just mesmerized by them. I was just watching them. They seemed so graceful in the water, free. And elegant, and on the contrary, I felt I was like a giant turtle in a huge tank, and clumsy and very slow, and I cannot go up with them. And that was really like the moment where it kicked in. I decided, okay, I really wanted to learn that. I want to become like them. Since they are human beings and I am too. So there's no reason I, would doubt myself, my ability to learn that skill, right? So I just committed. Then I started searching online if there's like a class, I can find a coach who could teach me. So that's how I really got into freediving.
Interesting. As your story was very similar as how I started freediving as well, from scuba diving to freediving. That one day I was doing my safety stop. When I look up, I saw a freediver woman glide down in the water without the tank. I felt exactly the same as you mentioned. I was being this scuba diver, so clumsy, so heavy, couldn't move freely. Like I look at her, I was like, oh, I want to be like her. So yeah, I can totally resonate with what you mentioned about this sense of freedom, this mobility, and also this innate ability within human to be able to dive in the water with one breath and still catch a fish, take picture for octopus. That's really fascinating. So once you get into freediving, what happened after? Later you become this world-class freediving athlete. You have a record, also 37 national record, 15 golds, 7 silver, 8 bronze medals in variety of different competition, which is really impressive. And you are a freediving trainer as well. So that's some achievement. Maybe I would not be able to achieve multiple lives, but how could you get there with such a short period of time? What happened in between?
Yeah, freedom really took me on a roller coaster ride. I would say it's not like something I planned for. I think things just kind of happen naturally. I would say when I become freediver, I learned a lot about myself, which I never learned from sitting in a classroom. And that's one thing. It opened a lot of possibilities for me. It made me realize there are certain limitations that are mentally I put there for myself. They were not necessarily true, and we can realize that those limitations were perhaps only mental rather than physical. Then that gives me that confidence to explore a little bit further. But the most important thing was I was having a great time, right? Like being a freediver and enjoying what I do. And I was really happy. So I was wanting to like learn more about freediving from all aspects. And that's how I became an instructor as well. So like taking the course to be trained as someone who's going to teach the class. My intention was to be a better diver overall, to be more comprehensive, to learn everything around safety and the details of symptoms and signs of freediving, like just to like really sink that in. So that was my motivation. At the same time, I felt freediving is such a multi-dimensional activity. So it's not just like a sport where I did participate in competition events.
Right.
It's a way to challenge myself, push my physical and mental limits, of course. Doing it in a competition setting, I felt really safe, right? So there's the support team. They always had my back. At the same time, freediving, I felt it's like a form of self-expression. Right? Your personality, you can move your body without the pull of gravity. You can express your emotion by dancing through the water, playing with bubbles. There's all kinds of ways that you can do that. I also did like a few artistic photo shoots or videos, which was fun as well. Things that we couldn't like manage, right? I cannot do like a flip and jump and just turn in the air because I'm not a gymnastics person, but I could do that in the water, right? I don't know how to rock climb, but I could go underwater and I could play with the sheer rock structure, the cliffs underwater, and I felt like it's a wonderful experience, right? Yeah, it's like emotionally, it's very liberating. Another level is I noticed that animals accept us a lot more in the water. The marine animals, they feel perhaps when we are scuba diving, the bubbles are too noisy, or maybe there was just something going on that seems disturbing to them that shows as a threat. But when I freedive, I hold my breath. It's really, really quiet. And I move also in a way where I kind of relax my body to the maximum. The heart rate slows down. And then the vibration from my body is a lot more gentle, right, for the animals. So they actually accept us as if we are just part of the ecosystem. They let me come a little bit closer. I could also move much faster in the water, cover a lot more grounds in the same time period. Sometimes coming face to face with a big marine animal. Those are things that I never saw, like on a scuba, with a scuba tank.
Yeah.
And very memorable moments where I see a whale in the water or play with the sea lions in the water. This like being more like one with the nature type of experience that freediving.
Amazing. What you just said really drew a beautiful image in my imagination. I was lucky enough to also experience some of those moments, as you said, playing and getting closer to animals in the ocean and be able to express yourself in so many ways. I have so many questions. I'm starting with the mental limitation that you highlighted. Actually, just from my own comment, I realized I also had a mental limitation because I said the achievement you got was something I probably cannot achieve multiple lives. I immediately realized, oh, wow, that's exactly a mental limitation I placed on myself. Many of us have such limiting beliefs or limitation we put on ourselves. How do you approach those thoughts and how do you actually overcome those beliefs?
Yeah, great question. Well, I do breath hold training. The first thing I noticed was if I think I can hold my breath 5 seconds more, my body would actually just follow through and I'll be fine. But if in that particular moment, if the thought that comes to my mind was I can't do it anymore, or if that was a signal as if something terribly wrong is going to happen, and then I would just quit that breath hold, like stop immediately. Right? So that's a moment when the thought precedes the action. And freediving is unique in a way where you can see your result right away, right after your breath hold, a few minutes maybe, but then you see the result right away. You know how you felt in that breath hold. You know how long you did it, right? So, and when I just compare two different breath holds, and surprisingly, if they were exactly same time, I could have one breath hold that felt amazing. I was like feeling very good overall. My mind is like in this dreamland. It was going through all of these happy thoughts and emotions. But on the other hand, I could have the same breath hold, but mine was just suffocating, like suffering so much. But the body is essentially doing the same thing. And I could have a great breath hold that goes much longer, but a short breath hold that felt like a torture. So, and then I couldn't explain like what is going on between these two different experiences other than noticing, well, the only thing that's different is the thought that was circulating or hovering in my consciousness. And what I allow the thought to be and how do I process each thought that comes through. So that's like a self-awareness. In the very beginning, I noticed, and then therefore I pay attention to the thoughts. And I set an intention before I start my breath hold, how I want to feel, how I want to think about. Usually I try to focus on something happy for breath hold purpose. Yeah. And that sets the tone of that breath hold and then continues on that path. And if anything like questionable comes to my mind, I don't analyze it. I just let it be and let it go and replace it really quickly with another happier thought. So that's how it feels like during a breath hold. But to your point about what are the limitations that we may carry around in our daily life, one could just be a habit. So imagine there's many roads in the brain, how your thoughts and emotions, everything is connected to one another. It's like we have a city map in the brain that has lots of roads, right? Some things have like a express highway, which goes from A to B really quickly, even though maybe C is a happier place. But your map in the brain is like so that when A appears, your reaction is immediately B, even though C is connected somehow, but it's maybe like through a windy little country road. It takes more time. It's not as obvious. But I believe once you realize that these connections can be rebuilt somehow, then it is all possible to set an intention and train your mind. Like when you come to construction work and you kind of like build like like a bridge over a challenge or a gap, or build a new super highway between C and A, for example. So and what you want to connect, what is meaningful for all of that effort and time or practice to reconnect things. It is a very personal choice. And of course, I think naturally we all have this internal kind of analysis sort of gauge, right? We can't just say, I wanted to think, say, not wearing clothes and standing in the snow for like an hour, that I will be happy. I probably will not die, but it's probably really bad for my health. Right? If I force my mind to think like that, if I really try hard, I could possibly also like go through that experience, smiling through that whole experience. But I don't want to do that because I don't think it is healthy, right? So, and therefore, what limitations we wanted to accept, or limitations we really think it's not the norm. We look at the whole society, the whole population of people, how I feel about certain things may be a little bit out of proportion from the majority, right? So if there are things like that, could be due to like a habit or like some trauma in the past. Or could just be something that's related to perhaps a fear that you have, but it may not be how, let's say, how majority of the people react to it, or like, let's say, the more healthy version of the reaction to that. But if you do realize that, then you can say, okay, I think this particular limitation is something I wanted to overcome. Not necessary to carry it with your whole life, right? Yeah. And for example, in my personal experience, I had like a Raynaud's disease in my hands when I was a child. So every winter I have very, very bad times. I had lots of inflammation in my fingers, so the blood stopped circulating, and then all of the capillaries will close, and the tissue will flame up, and then it's really itchy experience for a month. I didn't like that. So then I always felt nervous when it's winter time, right? When it's cold, I just naturally, like, my whole body and my mind, everything tenses up. And if I moved away from my hometown, there's better heating inside of the building, there's better weather, and then I don't necessarily develop the same problem anymore. But it is still this negative emotion associated with colder weather lasted for quite a long time. So in my personal case, I really just selected this problem I targeted. That's like, okay, this is the one I wanted to get rid of. I don't want to be living, the rest of my life afraid of being like in the winter season. So, and therefore here I am in Germany. Winter. Actually, I'm having a great time. And so like small little success stories along the way. But also start with something small, right? And then you build a little more confidence with it. Then gradually, I think it strengthens that muscle, like in the brain, to navigate that thought management, or like the switch about can or cannot. I'm happy, I'm not upset, or it's positive versus negative. There's like this little switch. The more you practice, the more success that you find along the way, the better you will be at exercising that same switch.
I hear you. So what I hear is to first have this awareness that perhaps there are certain patterns or beliefs that from our past experience, childhood, or social conditions. And then second, to intentionally have this decision making to say the thoughts are not us. We can decide which thoughts we want to have, like you did in the breathhold practice. And then also start to rewire this connection, like what you mentioned in the map metaphor, to to build new neural connections on the positive belief, on the positive thoughts, emotions, and then take small actions, maybe in a less risky, controlled environment, and gradually build this muscle and confidence. And eventually, we will see change and do all.
Yeah, and just have fun with it too, right?
Yeah.
So I think enjoying what you do is like, I think it's the best way to keep a habit. So I always pay attention to what thought makes me happier.
Yeah.
And see if I want to like remind myself of that more frequent.
With the joy.
Yeah.
With the happiness and positive emotions. You mentioned self-expression through freediving. I really loved that point because you talked about the artistic picture and this really artistic movement that you could do in the water. I noticed recently you're also touring actually now in Germany to promote the documentary movie that you just made recently. And I'd love to hear more about this connection between freediving, art, and self-expression. Can you share more on that?
Yeah. So the documentary was a very deep and personal story. Actually, a director from Canada, Yuki, approached me when I was in China, and she was really interested in a story about freedivers, understand why do freedivers go so deep. Right?
Yeah.
It seems like there's darkness, loneliness, and danger perhaps deep in the ocean, and they are going with just one breath by themselves. And what's there in the devotion that's like attracting them to get down so deep.
Mhm.
And she was also interested in like from a female perspective. Historically, freediving is a male-dominant sport.
Yeah.
And so she really wanted to have a female representation. It relates to also in many things that we do, especially perhaps in work environment, in areas where it's a male-dominant space, how females may be able to also do a good job and thrive in those environments and have our experience share. So I thought that was very interesting perspective. I never was into freediving as kind of this superhero type of superhuman ability type of angle or like a thriller type of topic.
Yeah.
So I was attracted by the sort of like this more emotional, personal approach Director Yuki wants to take on. So I agreed to do this documentary with her. We actually filmed before COVID and then got kind of stopped halfway because of COVID.
Yeah.
And it allowed us actually longer time to get to know each other.
Mm.
And we filmed from the beginning to end over 5 years of time.
Yeah.
Long time to finalize the story. And it actually came out to be a story that touches the relationship between family members and the difficulties that a child may have to face and go through, sort of understanding, what's going on, how to, get a better kind of relationship with parents.
Mm.
It pivoted into that family emotional angle. And the reason that we went that way was personally also for me. Freediving is of course a lot of fun, and it always goes as a mirror for me that I can see my result right away, and I could remember, what sort of emotion I had going into the dive or before the dive, and how I did in the dive, and then that really comes through from the dive. So I remember there was this one particular competition location. It's a very, very remote island in the Bahamas. And being there on my own as like a single sort of traveler, without like a sort of a safety team that I know or like friends that I know to go to this competition with, it really triggered this very, very deep feeling of loneliness on that island.
Yeah.
And it became very, very difficult for me to perform in that particular location. even though that's like one of the most important freediving competitions out there. Right? So this baffled me for also quite a few years. I was struggling to figure out why I couldn't dive well in this particular place. And it wasn't until much later, Yuki and I started producing this film. And through a lot of talking and shared experience, I started to realize that perhaps the very, very, very deep emotional fear that I had was this feeling of not being included in a community, feeling being left out, or feeling not understood or alone.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm also feeling like not being recognized, not being misunderstood, being accepted. So all of these kind of emotions were like sort of the reason that I had challenges in that particular competition. So, and then I decided to go back there to do another competition. And I felt like I need to practice what I preach too, because I always tell people like the way that freediving is a good learning school that made me understand myself a lot better. That I could overcome my fear here and there. I do find that I could kind of intentionally decide what type of person I want to become, and not having my past dictate how I feel, or not be a slave to my own emotions.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I just decided, even though it felt really scary, going back to the same island, and face the failure I had there with all the people there as well, that they were part of failure that I, as I remembered, it took me a while to find my courage, and I was ready to go back there. So this was kind of the overall theme of this documentary. And of course, Yuki has a very artistic way of storytelling and cinematography. So that's, she really captured the artistic aspect of diver being on the water.
Wow.
So so I think if you happen to be in cities where Ocean Film Tour is showing the 2025 selection of Ocean films this year, and it is on tour right now in several countries in Europe. I recommend you watch it.
Me too. I will link the movie link or the name. I think it's 7 beats per minute.
Yeah, the movie is called 7 Beats per Minute.
In the show notes, and I hope the audience have an opportunity to watch it. It must be a really wonderful experience and really touching story. I don't want to spoil any of the story in the documentary, but I'm really curious about the competition you mentioned, because I do hear that in one of the competition you did have a very severe blackout for 8 minutes being unconscious. How was that experience shape you and give you the perspective of your own mortality, life, freediving, and everything, if you want?
Yeah, so actually that's part of the movie.
But I'm sure the documentary itself will have a very different experience versus you talk about this. But I'm really looking forward to hear that story from you. How did it happen, and how did you feel afterward?
Yeah, so actually it was a world record 10 dive. I was diving for 4 minutes already on breath hold, and then I had a blackout, and after I got rescued, I didn't really wake up for another like 3.5 minutes. So like the unconscious part was probably during that rescue period of time. And it looked scary from the outside, and it looked chaotic as people were like trying to rescue me, and it looked like a near-death experience. Obviously, I was really having a great time. I was the person going through it, and it felt completely different from the outside view. I felt my consciousness and my body became separate. Right. So my consciousness registered what's happening. It knew that the diver was in the water doing a water attempt. But then the next thing, the consciousness registered, well, we're not diving anymore. Something changed. Right. And then what could have happened? Okay. So it must have been a blackout. But at the same time, the consciousness is it's very peaceful, calm, super clear with sort of the entire memory bank of the past life. It didn't play like a movie or anything. There wasn't like lots of lights, but it was in a very warm, bright, safe sort of atmosphere. You know, it's hard to find words to describe it. I don't think human language was designed to describe feeling like that. And of course, I believe whoever died could not come back and invent a word for it. But I think just being close to it, I would say being close to it, I knew that when consciousness is detached from the body, when there is no distractions from the sound from the world or even the sound and signals from the body, the consciousness is a very happy energy or spirit on its own. And it's super powerful in terms of figuring out what's going on, what's happening, and what needs to happen. But very, very detached from the body. It's never think of this body as me or my. It was just a consciousness on its own. And it was not in a hurry to make any changes or go anywhere.
To be there.
Exactly. It felt a little bit like a very deep meditation. Sometimes on a dive, I reach a state where I felt extremely content. And I don't want anything to change. I don't need anything else. It would just be in the present moment. It was the most content and happy feeling I ever felt. So in that moment where I was kind of unconscious from the outside, but the consciousness is still there, it's working. It was just not communicating with the body. It was not receiving any signals, it's not outputting anything. That consciousness is on its own extremely content and happy to be where it is. So kind of, reconnecting with the physical body was not easy. It was a bit of kind of effort. It needs to be taken. Also, it starts with a sort of an intention, right? So the consciousness, they kind of have to decide, like, okay, I want to go back to the body now, right? So it's like I remember the details of that too. Like consciousness was like, okay, I'm ready to go back into this body. There are things that are not finished, and we have to go and complete it. And therefore, I try to then open my senses, right? I started receiving senses. I started hearing first. So that's the first sense that came back, and it was very loud. If you're talking like right now, the volume that I'm hearing when I was going through that, your voice would have sounded like 10 or 20 times louder.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's like a very, very dramatic transition to reconnecting with the body. And then I started to feel, right? So the touch and kind of like this
Sensation.
feeling came. So the physical touch, pressure was the second sensation that came back. And then I think it was probably like vision. I could start seeing faces. All of this happened before I could move my body. Yeah. So it was like regain these sensations and then regain control of the body. It felt like rebirth. Yeah. So to me, it's very special. I never remember, like, anybody remembers how they were born, like how they gain all these senses independently, and how it was like to enter into the world. How did people welcome you, right? Does anyone remember that moment? Right? I don't.
Probably not.
Yeah. So then that particular day, that experience, when I'm waking up to all of these people, they were so thrilled to see me coming to the world.
So relief.
Right. And they were so happy to see me.
Yeah.
It's a huge dose of joy. Yeah. I can't describe it how happy that I was going through that experience because it really gives me a sense of self-worth and a sense of connectedness with people.
Yeah.
It's an experience that have like a very colorful stroke on my emotional canvas. So it's very pleasant.
That near-death experience must be really, I don't know if traumatic would be the right word after I heard your experience, rather beautiful, touching, and full of love in a sense, in a way. And do you think after that experience, anything had dramatically changed in your life, or did you make any big change in your life?
Yeah, for me, it was a good experience, not traumatic at all. I mean, it's sad that I didn't succeed in it, died, right? So in this world, my life path would be very different if I made a dive or not make the dive. Perhaps, I don't know. I never would know. So, and as a direct result of that experience, right, biggest change following that day for the entire next year was that I just felt so much happier as a person. I was so grateful every day when I wake up that I could move my fingers. I can see everything, and I didn't have to put in any effort, and they were there. So these senses and these basic abilities as a human being, they don't seem granted anymore. Right? So I just felt that they were gifts. It is from the reference point that I remember when I don't have the physical body and I have nothing to do with this world, to having these abilities to receive and express, to communicate with you, is wonderful. It's a gift. Every sense is a gift. So I just became a much happier person, especially the year immediately following that. So it's kind of like the thoughts that come to my mind in any particular moment. And it's also kind of what I practice now. Is I will always take a moment to be quiet and acknowledge these gifts that I have. And in that particular moment, that thought will determine the base tone of my emotion in that particular moment. I find it's very effective for me because I have that memory, and it's very uplifting.
Well, it's very powerful what I heard from you, this gratitude, and not take the life that is granted. Yeah, it's very, very touching. And of course, not everyone has such experience, but I guess we can still find a way to cultivate this gratitude to our life. And I had similar experience as you, not in an unconscious state, but I was also in a freediving accident that I was really facing the possibility of that. That was really scary for me at that moment. But I was lucky enough to be rescued, and then the second day I quit my job because I realized life is too short to go on a path that I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel truly resonates with my heart. So yeah, I really feel you, and I really connect with your experience. And on this point, you mentioned about coming back to the competition, to facing this failure. It's finding the courage to do this again. I found that's really touching, that to confront those kind of fear, those kind of failure. So if you could share your experience and perspective with our audience, how do we do this? Because we are so caught up in the things we didn't achieve, or we failed, or we want to make a change in life, or we want to move to a new country, or change a job, or leave a relationship that is toxic. But there's so much fear in this. So how do we actually make the change and overcome those fears?
Yeah, it's definitely a very much personal situation. Perhaps there are different reasons for the same behavior. It looks similar from the outside, but really the reason deep down is different from person to person. In my case, it was first to really identify what is it that is bringing me down, bringing my spirit down. So really identify the deep emotional trigger. On the surface, it looked like the dive itself was the failure. And then to repeat the dive was perhaps to have a sense of regain control or have a sense of rewriting the story or changing the label. But the reality was, for me, I knew the reason that I did not perform well in the first place was that profound loneliness.
Yeah.
Right? So that separation from people and that the feeling of in denial of sometimes that is the case, right? So so it's like not accepting who I am, that maybe I am just an outlier because I'm a newbie to a new place, right? Just not willing to accept that fact.
Yeah.
And I kind of like have this deep struggle with the fear of this being alone or being left behind was the real problem in my life. And then the dive itself failed was just a symptom, right? What you could see. It was not the root cause of it. So for me to really be able to like claim that I've had like some significant change to my lifestyle or my life experience, I really needed to find a way to face that fear directly, but also in a hopefully in a safe and controlled way, right? Because I believe if I forcefully put myself in those uncomfortable situations without being ready to deal with it, I could potentially bring more harm, right? Just build more negative experience over and over on that same problem, and perhaps it could, at least has the potential to worsen the problem. So, like, how we approach it is also a variable that needs to take a bit consideration. And for me, going back to the island and going there to do a deep dive again, to do another record attempt, was a way that kind of, after I've worked on my emotion quite a bit, after trying to navigate myself through this, the deep emotional trigger, that I felt I was, at least I felt I was ready. I felt I had better capability to deal with it. And I still insisted that I must go there with a safety diver.
Yeah.
Right. So not just completely be myself, that I had some buffer to help me with the experience, so that I knew it was still gonna be challenging because the particular location triggers me already.
Yeah.
So so I had support at least the second time by going back there. So all of this, I think it took a little bit of planning and time and practice, just being aware of that, slowly build up that ability. And yeah, so I think it really depends on the person and the situation. And like I said, it's probably easier to start with something small. In my case, I had built like these baby steps towards dealing with fear, and then therefore, in the end, I think I was really taking a big leap of faith to face that, which I still believe is the worst fear that I can recall or I can identify in my life. And it's a lifelong practice, I believe. It's not overnight change. I believe dealing with one particular location that triggers that fear is just one step forward. And there's other situations that will trigger me again, or like bring up the similar emotion that may not be the best reaction to the situation. So I'm always paying attention to this as I go through my day-to-day life. When something happens, I always take a pause, look at the situation, think about what just happened, and see if I had the programming skills, how would like to rewire this particular experience, so that in the future, when this happens again, that I would have a different journey. This kind of improves like the overall quality of life. And yeah, I guess it probably it's like a peeling an onion. So for any particular situation that you mentioned, whether it's relationship or career aspirations or like self-realization in some way, I think it will take a little bit of peeling the onion, right? So just to slowly to get to the core of it. But in your situation, I think you also had like a little boost from life. You had a little sort of wake up call. Yeah. In that moment, you had enough courage and incentive, right? Or at least the energy was going with you. So you had a little boost to like make a really big move. But I think it doesn't have to be that way. Like sometimes life makes us change, right? So you got hit by universe. And something dramatic happened, and then you were like, okay, I got to take a different direction, right? Sometimes nothing happens from the universe, but then in the moment, at any moment, I believe, well, one can still make directional adjustments. Perhaps not as drastic, right? No, it doesn't have to be that way. As long as you set an intention, this is how I would like to be, and as long as you kind of start going towards it, and kind of you start perhaps peeling from the outside of the onion, like a little bit deeper to sort of go through that self-learning journey.
Back to your point about making life decisions and change. Although I had this dramatic accident happened that I made that drastic decision, but in fact, I was contemplating that decision already for a while before that happened. As you mentioned, exactly that was a push that maybe the universe heard me, but need me to somehow also learn a lesson, because that accident itself also taught me a lot about myself. As you mentioned, exactly, freediving is a mirror for me to understand my fear, my ego, my intention. So that was also incremental, but then somehow something happened. This made me make the decision. And what I hear from you is really about first identify this root cause, the underlying triggers, patterns, and perhaps traumas that we need to heal from, that we need to gain self-awareness of, and also have this intention, and then taking small action in a controlled environment, and gradually things will happen to the direction perhaps you even if they want to go. So that's amazing. Again, Jesse, I'm so fascinated about freediving and going deep and the free fall, the hug from the ocean, as you talk about in one of the interviews. I think we probably have a lot of similar experience in this. But I always wonder, even myself, I don't have the exact answer yet, as in why do you want to go deep? What drives you? Like you mentioned earlier, the director was wondering what was so mysterious, so beautiful in the ocean that draw you in and make you go deeper and deeper. Was there an end to it? And then, so what after?
Yeah, for me, curiosity was definitely one of them. I really wanted to know how it felt going a little bit deeper. Of course, the better we are at managing the mind, managing the thoughts, the more powerful the dive feels. So the deepest dives probably felt the greatest, on the contrary to what most people would imagine. It's the reverse. It's not that the deeper you go, the harder the experience, or the deeper, the longer you hold your breath, the longer you swim, physically feels worse. The reality is, yes, there are a lot of things happening physically. Of course, it's more challenging, and the body needs a lot more preparation for you going like 1 meter deeper. Especially towards the extreme situations. Going just a little bit further takes exponential effort to get the body ready for it. At the same time, I'm saying it's a reverse, because if you're not having a great time in the mind, you cannot make that dive. And then the body will just give you all these signals that your mind will have a hard time, sort of make peace with it. It's only when your mind is in a much better place than whatever challenge that your physical body is trying to tell you, that you can make that dive happen. So when your mind is having such a great experience, that's what you remember from the dive. So by the end of the dive, I often just felt that I wish the dive was longer. It's just really amazing. I did not recall any like negative thought or like hard feelings from the body or like any kind of discomfort from the body. Although they might be happening, they just be the sensations the body is always sending, right? But then none of this registered as bad or as hard or as a discomfort. The brain is sort of like in this happy wonderland. Every sensation comes in as just the sensation itself, and then all the thoughts floating around are joy, peace, and relaxation, and it's just a wonderful dive. And that's how we make those really, really massive dives happen. And that's kind of how like freedivers ourselves kind of feel. And what's second half of the question?
So after the dives, so what? Because the reason I'm asking for this is because I myself have a tendency of always want more, always want to go further. There are always something that I can achieve more because I know I have this limited belief growing up with this sense of I'm not good enough, which on the positive side, it always pushed me forward, make me a better person, more competent, and achieve more. But on the flip side, it caused me 2 times burnout and a lot of other negative consequences because I just would not stop because there was always something better. In freediving could be something deeper. And my friend asked me the other day, he's like, why are you doing this? It's so dangerous. What if you black out? What if you die? What's so fascinating about this? What's the difference between 50-meter and 60-meter? What that 60-meter could give you, which is currently my goal. So that's why I'm asking you because what's next then?
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me. So first of all, I really wanted to kind of know, right? Because it's unknown for me. That curiosity is always there. Like I really wanted to see like how much better that the mind can be, how much more I can train my mind to be okay with whatever that's happening. I'm just in this happy place in my mind. I felt that's going to be a useful tool for me to just manage my experience, like I was saying earlier. And in terms of the sport performance itself, like how long I wanted to go, how deep I want to dive on long breath, I think it's driven by 2 things. One is very worldly pursuit to that. If I'm in reach of a record that I know I can do it, why not? Right. So this is this very grounded pursuit. It's whether it brings me some recognition or I get like a prize from the competition. It's great. It's just part of the sport. Right? So we get applauses most of the time because freediving is a very underfunded sport.
Yeah, true.
And then the other side of it is I like to see things through, right? So if as an experiment, I set the conditions, right? So if I had managed, let's say you were saying like from 50 meters to 60, if I had done 50 meters successfully, and by that time I already achieved a certain level of understanding of how my body functions, how I can train my mind to let my body's full potential come out. And I think I know how to do it, but I haven't done it yet. It's just a way of trying to show it to myself.
Yeah.
This was sort of my little experimental design. This is what I perhaps foresee. I have a little bit of prediction that this is going to work out. I wanted to add a little bit of this training or like do a little bit more of that practice, and then it should equate to me be able to do 60 meters. I identified the sort of like the bottleneck, the limiting factor, and I improve on that. Then it just really becomes that I want to carry through the experiment and see the final result, just to see if I was right or not. Like part of the learning, right? So you learn through trying it and see the results, and then you integrate the knowledge with the final result. So those were 2 reasons I kept pursuing, like a little bit more. And of course, for me, there is definitely an end. For example, I never thought I wanted to go over 100 meters. I never thought there was a need for that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was perhaps just subconscious because I remember when I first started doing the competition, and I was maybe like diving 60 meters, and one of the judges was saying like, "Oh, if you keep diving, keep practicing, in a few years, you'll be able to dive 100 meters as well." At the time, 100 meters was like women's world record, but I was like, "Oh, I don't think I will ever do that." Like in my mind, it was just like, okay, I just wanted to improve. I wanted to know what my body can do, but I didn't feel like I needed to actually get there. And still to this day, I just think the deepest dive I ever did in practice was 97 meters. I have not done 100 meters of breath hold. And still, I still think there's no need for me to go beyond that, right? So if I get to 100 meters, I think I've got, enough self-learning to decompress and unpack and utilize for the rest of my life that I don't see that I actually would be that curious beyond that, mark. So I think for me, there's definitely an end to it, especially now that I've learned so much about my thoughts and how my body and the mind work together. I find many ways to utilize it outside of diving, outside of the sport. As I would say, just changing my life trajectory to choose who I wanted to become or what kind of emotional reactions I want to have towards certain things with an intention, with regular practice. It's the same as if I was very stiff in my shoulders before I started freediving, but I stretched my shoulders every day. And now my shoulders are very flexible. It's more flexible than the average, right? So with my life, I can do the same. Time is so limited for a lifetime. I wish I have endless time that I can try many, many things, many, many ways of being, many ways of living my life, but I actually have very limited time. So I think just apply what I learned is already, I don't have enough time for all of the things I want to try.
Yeah.
So then it just becomes a balance and choice. It's almost just like if I keep on practicing as an athlete, I know for sure I'll progress, I'll improve. But the cost of that is that I will lose a lot of time trying other things. Right. So and then it's just for me it's just like a choice.
There are again many questions from this part. So many gold in it. One is you mentioned about small things like shoulder become more flexible. I'm sure there are so many other, let's say, benefits or change or mindset that you apply into your life through your freediving experience or competition or learning or teaching. So what are those that perhaps also as a attempt for me to also advocate these sports for more people to get to know, to give it a try, because for me it does bring so many wonderful, surprising change, life changing sometimes in my life. So I really want to hear from you. How has freediving changed your life?
Yeah, so a few things that I have started working on after like my last competitive freedive event. I wanted to enjoy spending time with friends more than I used to, because I used to be very comfortable being solitary. I think sometime in my teenage years, I just decided like I'm more efficient. I get a lot more things done being by myself. Minimize the social activities. I learn more things. I become more productive, and I could still be that way. It's like a car that has forward and reverse gear, and I can be solitary in one gear. Being able to enjoy in social settings and spending time with people where I lose personal time is something that requires active practice, mental practice. So I decided to do that. Ever since my last competitive event, I definitely noticed a change. I really use the same mental sort of switch method to, of course, convince myself already that hang out with friends is so much better than being out by myself, right? So it does sink in. So and now I find that I'm always in the reverse gear, perhaps compared to solitary. I'm always in the reverse gear. That I really, do not need personal time. It's 180 change that if I wanted to. But I think I remember for a year where it is, I can always switch back to. So then I find it's more versatile. Like depending on the situation, I can kind of, rather than changing the world, I could change how I react to always put myself in in a good mood at least.
Yeah, interesting. Because I hear you talk about this kind of polarizing between choosing to be alone in solitude versus being social with friends. I myself also have this conflict often because I'm also more introverted. I like to spend time on myself. But at times when I do engage deeply with my friends, my support system, I feel really loved, alive, uh, supported. So I think that plays a really essential role to my well-being and also recovering from burnout. So I definitely hear you, this sense of being in this community or close circle that is really important in our health and well-being. Mm. And talk about health and well-being. How do you maintain your well-being, your athletes? I'm sure you have a lot of technique or strategy in this, but at the same time, I hear you travel a lot, you work remotely in different time zones, you compete, you're doing research, you're making a movie in the last 5, 6 years. So many things to juggle. How do you keep yourself mentally, physically, spiritually healthy along this challenge?
Yeah, I would say always prioritize healthy food, sleep, and then allocate the time to as many things as I can juggle. I would say. Yeah, I do find that sometimes I get too busy. When I get too busy, it definitely affects sleep time or like the food I get to eat. But that's also why I'm not taking competitive events this year because I have so many other things I wanted to do. I don't have as much time to allocate for like very consistent training. But I try to be active and do some exercise whenever I can. And I adapt to the situation, right? So I don't have time to, for example, find the right gym to do the particular training I want or find a pool and travel there on a daily basis. When I'm traveling, I think I need to be more adaptive to the situation.
Yeah.
Therefore, I started learning handstand. Oh, something I can take with me anywhere as long as there's a door or an empty wall.
Yeah.
In practice, I was actually doing that in every hotel I've seen in Germany. Actually, I was doing it on the airplane. On the United States to Germany. On that long flight, there was a corridor in the middle of the plane that was very narrow. And it's like just for a single person to pass through. And in the middle of the night, when nobody was around, that corridor was a perfect practice place for doing handstand. Yeah, so I was doing that.
I always need some tips because I can only do a shoulder stand, but not.
Yeah, I'm still learning like a student in that. So that's kind of like how I find that I can find my exercise. Yeah, no matter where I am, and like stretching, which is kind of great place to do. It doesn't also require any tools, right? Or particular like facility. Yeah, we can do it anywhere. Yeah, and then I would say just like leave some space, but don't get too full of a schedule. Yeah. When it's very full, fully packed schedule, it can backfire.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear you. So the foundation, of course, eating, sleeping, exercise, and be a little bit flexible and creative in the exercise if you have this busy and maybe nomad lifestyle, and give yourself some space to perhaps pause, decompress, and not always have a long to-do list or calendar that is full. So yeah, totally.
Yeah. Also check in with yourself from time to time to see like where your emotional tone is at a particular moment and see if there are thoughts that you can do to improve that. It starts with a thought.
Yeah. Small observation on yourself. One topic I'm curious, it might not be super relevant for a lot of our audience, but just for me to get your perspective is for freediving, because now the world record male is 134 maybe, and for female is 128. Where do you think this sport is heading to in terms of depth? Not talking about static or dynamic, because we are still human being and there is certain limitation and we cannot dive to something. So what's gonna happen next if at some point we reach to, I don't know, what, the 60? Was there an end to it? And then what's gonna happen because our physiological limitations?
Yeah. In the history of freediving, when the sport started, the form of freediving was no limits and variable weight.
Yeah.
In which there were assisted descent and assisted ascent, or one of them. So it was easier to get down and come back. Then therefore people went much deeper. Right? So those disciplines. But then we hit a limit, physiological limit. So there's decompression risks in addition to the hypoxia. So that became a risk. Therefore, that discipline no longer existed. So we started competing in other disciplines where we have to do self-propelled descent and ascent. Now we have several of them with a monofin. And then with a rope, we do free immersion, or no things, free swim. And very recently, we added one more discipline, which is with diving. So I think with these disciplines, we'll continue to improve our ability. The training methods are going to get better. People are going to have nutrition, better equipment. Everything's going to help us to get deeper with these disciplines. And whenever we hit a physiological limit that we cannot surpass as a human being, we'll probably just invent another discipline.
Maybe another tool to help us go deeper.
Yeah, perhaps, we dive with a parachute or something. Just make it harder for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But also go artistically, right? It could go towards having some kind of like not just technical difficulty, but then there could be like artistic aspects of it.
Performance in between.
Yeah, perhaps more of entertainment or performance or something like that.
Interesting. It's all possible. I'd be looking forward to watch this field, participate a little. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing.
What would be wonderful would be actually doing some artistic piece together with animals.
They like to join us.
The animals.
Stay tuned. Before we move on to other topic, I have two very selfish questions because, as I mentioned, I'm also starting to do a little bit competition, and a lot of my friends, they are maybe similar as my level. Perhaps some of them are around 20, 30, some maybe like me, like 40, 50. We all want to progress in a sense, maybe go deeper, stay longer, more relaxed. Definitely not to the level of national record, world record. And still at our current level, what would be your maybe simple suggestion or strategy for us to progress? Because now I'm doing the mouse feel technique, which I'm still stuck in at 50, but now I'm wanting to go to 60.
Yeah, if you practice it, especially if you're practicing the water, you will naturally progress. So I would think, for people who are living in an inland place, if they have the ability to go, like, spend some time continuously near the water and dive every day or, a few times a week, that naturally will probably be the best way for the body to condition and to get deeper. And there are, of course, some land drills and techniques that people can do when they are away from the ocean and then travel to the ocean for a limited time each year to try to get deeper. It's possible, but it does take.
I live in Berlin, so I occasionally go to pool, but not enough. Also go to the sea, also not enough. So I need to find the right way to progress. Thank you for sharing. I think definitely put into the effort consistently. Training is key. The second question is more on the perception of the sport itself, because I'm doing it also selfishly in a way to let more people know about these sports. Because a lot of documentary or movies will talk about freediving often has a negative connotation to it because there was someone died or there is a terrible accident happened. But in reality, freediving, to me at least, from my knowledge, my experience, it's still a very safe sport if you're doing it in a controlled environment, if you have practiced the safety measure. What do you think? How can we actually bring people to these sports, and how do we actually spread this sports more to the world? Because it has so many benefits to us, and for us to get access to ocean, connect to nature, to animals, to express ourselves.
Yeah, if we all had access to a deep pool, I think a lot more people would want to do this freediving, at least give it a try. I don't know if this will ever become like a mainstream sport. It is still a very niche type because the appeal of freediving, I think it is unique. It attracts certain type of person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's not a team sport yet,
Yeah.
right? So it is a very individualistic right now. And if it actually evolves into like another format where it requires team collaboration, since a lot of people are very social,
Yeah.
so they do really like to participate in social events. And then I think that would, have a little bit better chance at getting more interest from the general population.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
maybe that's a topic we touched upon earlier about how reinvent freediving or somehow could be a way to make it more popular on mainstream. But for now, even if for people that is very social, like to do team sports, I still think freediving is such an amazing way to connect with nature, with yourself. And then we talk a lot about freediving. But I cannot help notice that you're also very strong in your academic background as a PhD in pharmacology, pharmacogenetics, and doing research on immunology and oncology. So, how do you like this very deep, different type of work, which is, I guess, very heavy also on the mind, and how did you find this path?
I learned pharmacology mainly because I needed a major for my PhD. Yes. And then I was also on a scholarship at the time. I was funded by the breast cancer research funding. So it just led me to this career path. Not for any particular reason, because I do like biology. I like studying animals, human bodies, one animal species as well. So it is health related. I think my work really helps to develop new drugs that hopefully collectively would help many of my colleagues. We bring something useful to fulfill like the unmet medical need. I think that's a very meaningful activity that we're doing. So it is primarily just mental work and then just spending time on the computer and reading, writing, talking, discussing, thinking. That's pretty much it. And then what's really balances it out is a physical exercise, like a sport or something. So I guess the balance is what I look for. And I could not be just 100% athletic in the gym all day long or like train anything like close to the format of a marathon. I could never do that because it takes too much time.
Yeah.
So, sure. And I could also not just work in office, like only work on computer all day. I think I just need the balance of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it not for a pharmacology job, it would have to be something else that requires a lot of thinking time.
Intellectual stimulation. You also teach. I don't know if you're still currently teaching, but you are instructor trainer, and I think you taught over 500 students.
Yeah.
So what teaching means to you? Why do you teach? What does that bring?
Yeah, I did some freediving teaching, still do active coaching for people on individual one-on-one basis. I find teaching helps me to solidify the understanding that I learned and sort of synthesized through practice. And it really deposits it into my memory and being able to explain it to other people, watch how they do it, and help problem solve situations. And whenever they make progress, or when they have this like a moment of like enlightenment, that they notice that something that previously they thought not possible is actually possible. It's also a great source of joy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say teaching is like something I'm always passionate about. Like unwrap,
Yeah.
or reveal the potential in another individual. At least sometimes, like I see it before they can see it themselves. And in that moment, I really, really wanted to reveal that potential and be encouraging.
Yeah.
And perhaps I think I would like to teach in a like a different way in the future, rather than just specific about diving like as a teaching a skill. I really wanted to explore different venues of sort of teaching how the mind and the body connect. People can utilize the mental switch to be more in control of how they want their life stories to be. And I find that's something that relates to more people, because diving is just like a certain activity that appeals to a subset of people who wanted to be more active in the water.
Yeah.
And I'm currently still like exploring different ways of connecting with perhaps a larger audience, where it was more about sort of like this mind and body wellness overall, this health without medication.
Love that. Exactly as you mentioned about this body mind connection topic. I've been thinking about that for a long time. Also, because I'm a burnout resilience coach, I apply those techniques in my coaching practice using meditation, breath work, visualization, which I happen to also use in freediving. I'm sure you do as well. So I do see this very close connection and application between freediving and our overall wellness, well-being, and how those can be transferable and benefit more audience. I look forward to hear more from you and how do you actually bring this to life. So I hear so many new arena that you're experiencing and experimenting with. So what's coming up that is exciting and perhaps our audience can get to know or following?
Yeah, so I am currently traveling a lot. I want to see more countries and culture, meeting different people. Being a digital nomad, I carry my work. I'm very free to travel everywhere in the world. So if any of you want to meet up, it happens to be on my travel path, feel free to reach out. I'm very easy to find. I'm Jessea, and my Instagram is Jessea Diving. And that's definitely like part of the world experience that I wanted to achieve for myself, and on the way, and kind of get a better understanding about like how different culture bring people together, how societies function in different areas of the world, what are the current issues, what do people need, what do people think, where are the unmet problem needs. And then perhaps eventually, I wanted to build a community of like-minded people who will, be supportive of each other. So I don't have like the exact news on that yet, but it is the intention and direction that I'm going with.
So thank you for sharing. I will leave Jessie's contact in the show notes, and be sure to follow along her journey and maybe join you at some point in your journey.
It'd be great to connect.
Thank you so much for joining the Heritage Show today. And I've had such an amazing time. Connect with you, get to know you more, and be able to share those fascinating stories and insight to our audience. And I really look forward to meet you again, perhaps invite you back to the show because I have so many other questions that I would like to hear from you. Until then, I wish you all the best on your travel, on your adventures, and your growth.
Thanks so much, Lady. Yeah, it's really been a lovely time with you. Maybe we can just go diving together.
Yes, that'd be amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, look forward.
I hope everybody also has more free time in your life, more flexibility in travel and experience different things. Good luck with everything.
Thank you so much for joining us on this journey with Jessea Lu. Her story is a testament to the strength found in vulnerability and the healing power of the ocean. If today's episode resonated with you, I highly recommend watching the documentary 7 Beats Per Minute, which offers an intimate look into Jessea's path of healing and self-discovery. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories on The Heritage Show. And remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who might need some inspiration today. Take care of yourself. Until next time.